Hey, welcome back, everybody. Go back to Zelda Speedruns for our continuing coverage of the Link to the Past All Dungeons Restricted Main Glitches Tournament. Got ourselves a Group C match today. This is not Yoho versus mooglemod. I'm joined by Dow TMB and Apathy Duck on comms. How are you two?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing alright, but I'm going to shut up now so the people who know this game can talk, so I will be back later.
Yeah, we got a good one for you today. This is like we said, Moogle versus Yoho. Yoho's got a 14:45 and Moogle has got a 14:16 in this category. So it should definitely be a really close race. Both of them have PB within like the last week. So this is pretty much going to be anyone's game. Expect a lot of back and forth in this one. Should be an exciting one. This is also more or less for advancement right now. Moogle is 1-1. Yoho is 1-0. Yoho still has to play the number one seed, Josh, in this bracket. So unless he manages to upset Josh, if this is more or less for advancement, but things could happen later on. So it should be a really exciting one. And I think we're going to be getting started here in just a sec. So Dow, you wanna give the opening spiel on this one?
Well, the first, in my opinion, about 10 and a half, 11 minutes of this game are going to be super interesting. This is restricted major glitches, which means we allow some glitches. However, there's not much we get to do early on in the game. So if you're familiar with the NMG speedrun at all, it'll look really familiar. And if you're not, what we can expect to see a lot of here is just hopefully clean movement, not taking a lot of extra hits, and getting from point A to point B pretty easily.
If you haven't seen this particular category or really any of the major glitch categories in Zelda, kind of our standard spiel is like this game is just terribly broken, and it keeps getting more and more broken as time goes on. So we have like 3 tiers of glitches. This like mid tier is kind of designed to allow you to sequence break the normal game a little bit, have a little bit more freedom. But anything that is like too broken, that just kind of like allows you to go to like straight to bosses or like just skip entire dungeons without even really having to go in them. That's the kind of stuff that we ban. We're trying to preserve like some semblance of actual like gameplay. The full-on major glitch categories tend to just be glitch fests, and you don't actually like quote unquote play the game so much. So that's kind of there's. It's always interesting when new glitches come out for this because there's really no hard like rule of thumb for like what we allow in this. It's basically just it's based on like feel and like community decisions.
Yeah.
So
definitely anything that kind of, if you look at it and you're like, oh, that's not too bad, but then you play it and you're like, ooh, I'm not so sure about that. That's the kind of stuff that'll end up in this category a lot of times. Yeah, and so like right now we see they're just kind of controlling Link the way we would expect Link to be controlled, killing enemies the way you expect enemies to be killed, that kind of, which is kind of the main idea. We want to preserve at least some of that gameplay in this category.
Yeah, like the only like hard and fast rule for this glitch set is anything on the overworld goes. I can't imagine we would discover anything that would be an overworld glitch that we would end up banning in this rule set. It's always been pretty strict. Anything goes because the overworld. I mean, those aren't your goals on the overworld. It's just let you get around. And like you'll see in this, we don't spend a lot of time on the overworld. I mean, like if you were sort of describe this speedrun, it's kind of like NMG without the overworld. We do some overworld, but most of it's skipped. Most of it's just kind of glitching around a little bit. So and we use that to change the order of dungeons, do a bunch of stuff. There's not too much in dungeons that we do. There are some stuff that we can do. Like we can go through walls as long as we don't end up in EG. EG's exploration glitch allows us basically to walk anywhere. That's the thing that's even in the major glitch categories that EG is sometimes banned because it just so completely changes the routing and the gameplay.
Yep. So far we've seen pretty solid gameplay from both of them. I mean, escape is always just a little bit of, you lose 2 seconds in escape and it feels awful. You lose 2 seconds anywhere else and you're like, okay, well, that's fine. But so far been pretty good from both the runners.
Yeah, the movement in this game is fairly simple compared to like like a platformer like Metroid or Mario or something like that. So like it just when you're doing a segment like this where there's not a lot going on, just every little tiny mistake like just stands out like a sore thumb. It can really eat at you. So honestly, half of Escape is just having a good mental game and not letting the little things get to you. Because losing 2 seconds here really isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, honestly, we're through probably the scariest part of Escape, which we didn't talk about much, which was the ball and chain guard. Neither of the runners took a hit from him. Ball and chain guard, sometimes you get hit twice, sometimes he just kills you. So
Yeah.
definitely the one spot in Escape that we're always kind of nervous about. So hopefully with Moogle on 2 hearts and Yoho on 2.5 hearts, we should make it through Escape. No problems. Nothing
Yeah,
here
God, I
hits
hope they
really
would.
hard. Not like later in the game where we'll see things that hit for 4 hearts, which is obviously pretty tough since we don't get any heart upgrades other than the ones that are required to pick up. So
Yeah, no heart upgrades or no. Although it's kind of come to my attention recently that you can actually get the blue mail as a decent safety now with Icebreaker.
yeah,
We saw Saban. If you were watching the Saban and 1UP match, I think it was 2 days ago. Saban got the blue mail, and it was actually pointed out to me by another commentator. A couple days like, you can get the blue mail now, can't you? I'm like, no, that seems really slow. And I kind of thought about it. It's like, well, it's literally opening 2 chests. It's not that bad because it's like it's right there. Like so.
yeah, probably less than 10 seconds. But it's
Yeah.
about the only safety we can expect anybody to get in this category. Everything else is really out of the way.
Well, silvers is the big one in this category.
True.
But I mean, that's so route changing and defining that it's almost not really a safety. There's just kind of like the silvers version
Really-
of this category and the non-silvers.
Yeah. Have to commit to it.
Yeah, I don't. I forget if Yoho gets. I don't think Moog was going to. I forget if Yoho gets them. But if we'll talk about that more when they get there. It'll be in like 2 segments.
I think based off Moogle's splits, he doesn't go for it. But
1834 is definitely not silver split for Pod.
no. So yeah, now we're done with Escape, which is definitely the least interesting part of the game. You notice we didn't really talk about it much because there's not too much going on. But they're just going to tell us to go to town, and we don't really care because we know where to go anyway. And after this, we're going to see Save and Quit, which is not allowed in typical NMG categories, but it is allowed in the restricted major glitches categories. Cuts down on a lot of overworld movement and actually is required, gets us out of a few sticky situations later in the run that would be necessary for.
Yeah, if we didn't allow save and quit, and any major glitch category allows save and quit, we didn't allow it. There's a couple of soft locks that would basically be run enders, which would be pretty mean. So that's kind of allowed. It's basically a requirement. Plus, it just allows us to get out of some situations. We can also abuse it. Just for speed purposes, just going around the world a little bit faster. Because we have access to those overworld glitches and we have save and quit, which allows us to go to the 3 save and quit points. The flute is just completely unnecessary in this category, so we'll never actually pick that up. The one place that the flute is required for normal gameplay is getting to Mire, and we have a way of getting in there. So it's just out of the way. We don't need it. It's just a time waster. So we just don't bother, and we just we basically use the save and quits as our kind of like ghetto flute.
Yeah,
discount flute.
Flute would be really out of the way anyway with the route we want to take, so it would be a time loss even if we did somehow get, which is kind of interesting because it's the only real fast travel option this game has. But yeah, now we're in Eastern. It's going to have a lot of the same things going on in Escape, reacting to RNG, just kind of keeping clean movement, not taking too much damage, especially in Eastern. We are going to take a damage boost in about 30 seconds or so, which is going to cost at least 1.5 hearts. Any more than that, and you're kind of in the danger zone of dying in the last section of Eastern. So hopefully we get through that cleanly with no extra damage.
Yeah, you may notice that neither one of them picked up Sync Heart. They're not going to be skipping that completely. They were going to be getting that after this segment. The reason we do that is the pod segment is pretty scary. We want to be on full hearts for that. After save and quits, you don't start on full hearts. The only time you do is if you only have 3. So by picking up Sank Heart is the only heart that also gives you a full refill in the game. So we will pick up Sank Heart after this to not only give us an extra heart for the pod segment, but it'll give us the free refill. We're gonna take a. There's only one guaranteed spot of damage on in pod, which I mean technically is skippable if you do the sword clips, but like only like 2 people do those. So we definitely want to have as many hearts as possible because we want to go into the boss fight at full hearts, just because it's a very scary fight. So that's why they don't get it here, and it will be gotten later on. It does make this segment a little bit scarier. Like Dow said, we take an intentional damage boost, but like you really shouldn't be running into a bunch of stuff in here. Oh God, Moogle showing off that sometimes you can get hit by 1 or 2 things. So it's not really necessarily scarier. It's just like when you can make like 1 or 2 mistakes and all of a sudden you're dead. And Moogle decided to play it safe and just get that extra heart on the other side. It's definitely a bad feeling when you die in Escape, or excuse me, Easter, but it definitely has happened to all of us.
Yeah, for sure. Some runners are definitely used to 3 hearts going into Eastern, but as a general rule, I would say that's not the case. And we're seeing pretty good Easterns actually from both of them, other than the little bit of extra damage from Moogle.
Yeah, that's really the only time loss. Since he went over to get the heart, which I'm sure was a race only strat. Again, you really don't want to. And like I said, their PBs are really close, within 30 seconds of each other. You really don't want to throw the match in Eastern by dying.
So unfortunately, well, okay, Moogle cleaned up the fight nicely, but Yoho did not get arrow drops, which is going to be an issue in pod. We need
It's gonna be a
7, I think.
7. It's going to be an issue for both of them. So there's a couple strats. But before we get there, this next little bit comes by really, really quickly. We're going to be doing, basically, you're going to see like a whole bunch of like the first glitches. So we're trying to go up to Death Mountain. We need to get the mirror, and there's also a way to get into pod up there. So there's a trick called DMA. What they'll be doing is a slightly newer version of it. We're going to end up dislocating the camera by transitioning the screen like past where we're supposed to do it naturally. And so basically the way it works is Link's actual position and the camera position aren't necessarily hard coupled to each other. So basically we go up one screen further than we're supposed to be. We're basically like rolling the screen around, and because of that we can do like a couple of weird movements to actually get into the cave past the big rock, which we normally need the gloves for. This is much safer than the older one. The older one we used to have to do like blind dashes into dead rocks, and it was terrible. So we have the safer DMA, which is also faster. It's like 6 seconds faster than the old one. And then there'll be another one that's what we call Kiki Yeet that actually gets us up into a cave where we're going to do a bomb skip. So, but first, here's the DMA. As you can see, right, we're just going over crossing the screen here. Camera's now broken, and then we just hop into this cave, and we're beyond that rock. So we can just completely skip the gloves right there.
Yeah, and we're never going to get the gloves in this speedrun at all, which is pretty nice actually. And we barely even need mitts, but we do need them.
Yeah, really the only I think the only rocks we ever actually pick up in this is the rock for Tempered and the rock before Cold Stare. I don't think we literally lift another rock in the entire. Oh wait, no, we behind Desert Palace, but we could get by that if we needed to.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't. There's ways around that we could skip it. Just so happens, actually Zero was playing around with a quick hop for it, and it still turned out to be slower.
But yeah, well, now we're going to grab the mirror, and before you know it, we're going to be in pod. Well, kind of in pod. But right here, they're going to wrap around to the top of Death Mountain by kind of clipping out of bounds here. It wraps you back to the top of the screen. And then they're going to do a couple of dashes here because they're kind of out of bounds, and they get back in bounds, and they go back out of bounds. And then, hey, we're in a cave that happens to be on Death Mountain. And this cave is connected to Palace of Darkness. It's just one screen away with the way the Underworld map works. But to get there, we have to do a quick teleport, which is extremely well done by Yoho there. And we're in Palace of Darkness, kind of.
Yeah. What we're actually in is called Cave State. The way this game works, and this is going to come up a couple times, the game keeps track of all the dungeons, and most of the caves are on one map. You don't really have to worry about the other caves that aren't on this map. So we can kind of traverse through some of these walls. If we ended up between the walls, that would be EG, and that's banned. But as long as we start inbounds and end up inbounds, it's allowed. So since we entered, quote unquote, entered pod through cave state, the game still thinks we're in a cave, and basically there are no keys in a cave normally. So just through a little, just the way the game works, we can actually open up doors in here. So we open up the first door in cave state without having to use a pod key. And that gives us a little bit nicer routing through here than you would normally see. We still get the key on the left side. It just ends up still being the fastest. So it's one of the this is really one of the dungeons that it sucks when you're category hopping, because so many different categories have a slightly different route through here, and you can go slightly mad.
Yeah, it's like almost exactly the same, and then just like one thing's out of order, and then you kind of lose it. But our main goals in pod are going to be, one, pick up basically every bomb we need for the rest of the run. Actually, we're going to use so many, we still need a few extra. And two, don't die, because this is definitely the most dangerous dungeon in this category.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just the dungeon itself is pretty straight. You really shouldn't take a single heart of damage in here, besides hammer jump. Hammer jump does get a little scary here, because if you miss, you're taking the damage from the bomb, and you're also taking a fall damage. And we only have 5 hearts, so there's not a lot. And there's only 3 hearts guaranteed you can pick up before the boss. And like we said, the boss is really scary. Neither of these runners did it. There is a way to actually get silver arrows before this dungeon. It's the main safety in this category, mainly for this boss, because Helmet is so terrifying.
Nice hammer jump from Yoho, which is one of the things. Hammer jump, normally we talk about it forever. In this category, it's just one of 100 different things you got to do. So
yeah, there's so much stuff that happens in this thing. We almost never have time to talk about it. So hopefully everyone knows what that is. Just you got through. Oh, don't worry about it. We got through a rail with a bomb.
And yeah, here's where the arrow situation is going to matter a lot. In the upcoming Mimics room, which are enemies that move with Link or opposite Link, they only die to arrows. So really do need arrows. We're going to want to fire 4 arrows, and then we'll need an extra 2 after that as well if we want to go fast.
Yeah, let's see if Yoho knows. No, okay. So there is a pretty spiffy backup in this room if you don't have arrows. Yeah, that's real unfortunate. Unfortunately, Yoho picking up that heart is not going to matter. Helmet only does 2 hearts of damage, so if you're on an even amount, 3 is effectively the same amount of health as 4.
It will matter if the turtles misbehave, which
yeah, that's true. It's a little. Oh god, they're both. Well.
Okay. So
yeah, so Moogle making a even without silver arrows, if you just have regular arrows, you can at least pump. I think it was 8 arrows, right, to kill Halma.
yeah, 8 arrows.
Yeah, so by Moogle having those extra, and even honestly, Yoho's got 6. Usually, you can get like at least squeeze 1 hammer hit in there.
You can get a hammer hit or a spin or something, but yeah, it's like this could be, depending on how they approach Helma, either like a really dangerous situation or out of arrows, which might be an issue later on in the run as well.
Yeah,
so I think Moogle might be prepared to do that since he picked up both arrow pots, actually.
Yeah, after Yoho took that damage, I think he definitely should have spent the time to pick up those arrows. And but we'll see how this fight goes. So its first phase isn't really all that scary, even if you fireballs. So it's going to be 7 hits to break the mask. Generally, you're going to get 1 fireball or tail swipe phase in the first phase, and then the second fireball / swipe is going to be right around the mask is breaking. And you can see Yoho just getting that mask broken after the second phase. Oh, yeah, Helma's being a bully to him, unfortunately. Yeah, that was a real bad pattern, unfortunately. That's
like when you're in a situation like that, it's just really difficult to deal with.
Yeah, on that situation, like if he pins you like that, if you're on like the left side of him, you can still kind of squeeze some arrows into him. And Moogle, yeah, Moogle playing it really safe. Like he's kind of in a safe spot there with where the tail swipe was, but he's still opting to do the ooh. Okay, he finished off. That was. Yeah, I don't know if Moogle saw the death on the other side, but Moogle definitely decided to play it as safe as humanly possible right there.
Yeah, so one of the big issues with Helma in this category is that normally when you get here, you'd have the Master Sword, which you can just slash and kill Helmasaur King with it, or you could do a spin, which like 4 spins, it basically does as much damage as arrows. But in this category, Fighter Sword slashes don't actually do anything, which is one of the reasons why it's so dangerous. And so he got 6 arrows and then 2 spins to finish off the fight, but the spins are dangerous because you get pushed back so much, you're never really quite certain where you're going.
Yeah, the spins tend to be, especially with the fire sword. What I recommend a lot is using the spins. Like if, like when Helma's about to move, but he can go either left, right, or come straight at you. If you just hammered him, he comes straight at you. It's impossible to move out of his way. So you can like release a spin there, kind of like as a defensive move, and then at that point you can again finish him off with a spin to get it back to like an even amount. But so there's a lot of things in you got a lot of tools in your toolbox here. It's just this is a fight that you just there's no magic bullet to it. You have to do it like 1,000 times. Like the speed strat here is to, just use the hammer. Oh god, Yoho got hit again. Oh no. All right, let's hope he gets through this. Yeah, he's getting a tail swipe here. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh, good.
Yeah. So I was saying Helma's definitely one of those fights that it's like, oh, the speed strat is to sort out hammer, and then you kind of learn that, and then you get decent at it. It's like, oh, this fight's not too bad, and then like you realize how slow you're going, and then so taking the fight and making it fast, like the difference between like a mid-level player's helmet and like a top-level player's helmet is it's a lot. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. Just knowing all those things, just trying to like a lot of with the fireballs, you can despawn the fireballs when if you break the mask when it's happening, just because there's too many sprites on the screen. Like so, you'll see like a lot of mid-level players like wait for phase 2 to start before breaking the mask for that reason, and then but you see a lot of top-level players just full on go for it and learn how to deal with it. There's a couple ways of dealing with it, but it's a really incredibly difficult fight, and it's just a dangerous fight, and everyone's died to it. It's one thing that kind of makes this as kind of exciting tournament race, I guess. But I mean, this isn't over. There's a lot more very dumb things that can happen to both of these runners, a bunch of soft locks and all that kind of stuff. And the category is just hard. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility that like just Moogle or Yoho is a good run from here on out, and Moogle has a little trouble, and it gets close at the end.
But yeah, here actually we're gonna see. We didn't really talk about it on Moogle's side, but we're gonna see another clip. It's actually just faster to clip around the top of Death Mountain here to walk straight into Tower of Hera. So there you see it from Yoho. We have to kind of, since the camera doesn't follow Link, you do have to kind of maneuver around, and you have to know exactly where the dungeon entrance is. But yeah, it's a little interesting. But then coming into Hera with 4 hearts is, I guess that's pretty normal, actually, with the way Death Mountain works. But
yeah, it
doesn't mean it's fun.
Yeah, we do have the hammer from Moldorm though, which I guess it's both less scary and more scary at the same time. A lot of times players will use like the sword to like as a defensive measure against Moldorm. I think for like top level players, it's definitely less scary with hammer. Yeah, doing the old pot dance.
Yes,
There's
the spin speed, which is only really relevant in this category, or if you go for boomerang strats, or I guess you could just do it if you wanted to, but kind of a meme. But it is a little bit fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of ways of doing this room. The only thing that really matters for speed is that last tile. You want to spawn it as quickly as possible. So you either want to use the boomerang to kill it as soon as it spawns, or a pot. The boom dash is the fastest strat by a marginal amount if you see some players do that. But as long as it doesn't really matter what you do in the room to avoid the tiles, as long as you kill that last tile as soon as possible, that's pretty much as fast as you can go.
Yeah, and Moogle had a pretty darn good Moldorm fight, and now we're going to Thieves Town, which is actually.
Were you watching the Moldorm fight?
I mean, he didn't fall.
He did not fall, but he kissed him a bunch. He gave him a bunch of kisses.
That's a good Moldorm fight.
Okay, I was wondering if you're doing the commentator thing where you didn't watch it and we're just like, yeah, it's fine.
No, if you don't die to Moldorm, don't fall to Moldorm, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
But Moogle getting into Dark World and then just climbing down Death Mountain with another spin speed out of bounds clip, which is really nice. Let's just go straight to Thieves. This is really nice because Thieves gives us the mid upgrade, and that allows us to get Tempered Sword, which is going to be our big damage upgrade, and will make the rest of the run much more manageable, especially the bosses.
Yeah, there is a like this dungeon is always so weird from a design perspective to me because they have this block in the basement that you're supposed to lift to get through, and it almost feels like a like item check to make sure you got the gloves before coming in this dungeon, but then they just gave us a way around it, so we just go around it. So we will have to do that. It's pretty much the real major difference in this besides between this and like NMG. A little less hearts. We have the fighter sword, obviously. The fighter sword's not too big of a deal. It doesn't kill things that would normally get killed, but we're just dashing through here, and most of the things we just push out of our way anyway. So it doesn't really change the dungeon all that much. There's like one or two spots you have to really be cognizant of it. Besides that, it's the
Biggest
same.
room is definitely going to be in the jail cells at the bottom. You won't one shot the blue Zazics with fighter sword, and they can present an issue sometimes. So
Yeah, it depends on what
always
strat you
need to be
normally.
Yeah, if you go
do.
for dash strats, it's much more dangerous. If you just go for kind of slash walk around strats, it's about the same, but you are at a higher risk of getting owned.
Yeah. If you're not going to do dashes, a lot of players will use the hammer. The hammer just because you're doing up hammers, the hitbox is really, really tiny, and it's kind of a pain. But anyway, that DMD we kind of glossed over. There's kind of like a little tutorial to the Dark World segment that's up on the top of Death Mountain. You're supposed to be stuck there. It doesn't connect to any other place in the world normally. But it's the only Dark World portal that in the game that isn't locked by gloves, but we don't have gloves. So we basically abuse the fact that they gave us this tutorial zone, and the fact that we can do these glitches to enter Dark World up there, and then we can do that DMD that Dow talked about to get into the Dark World proper. So like that portal is used a lot in a bunch of various categories for similar reasons. So it's pretty powerful and important to have.
So yeah, there's the room Doug was talking about. You can see the giant block in the middle. Normally we'd pick that up. We can't. We're not strong enough yet. So fortunately, you can defeat all the enemies in the room, and then the side door opens, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, and if you're used to watching like randomizers of this game, then you know like the progressive items. The items in the basic game are not progressive. Whatever item you pick up, you have. So we abuse that twice in this run. Well, not abuse it. It's just the way it works. It always seems like an abuse if you're used to randomizer. But yeah, we basically get the mitts here. So now we have the mitts. We never have to touch the gloves. And then we're going to be getting, after this, we're going to be getting Tempered Sword directly. We're going to skip the Master Sword because the Smiths do not check to see if you have Master Sword. They just check to see if you have the Tempered, and if you don't, then they'll give you Tempered. If you can get their Swordless, they will give you a Tempered Sword, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty funny actually. But Moogle having a pretty healthy, not taking any damage here in Thieves. It's pretty good. Not that we normally expect to take too much damage in Thieves. It's just one of those, that spin messed him up a little bit. But this is one of the reasons why you want to not take too much damage, is just in case something happens. But good job fixing it for Moogle there. And this upcoming section, well, I guess Yoho not opting to use a bomb there. He's at 9 anyway, but next section of the run actually is going to be Skull Woods. It's right here, and we're never going to come back to this section of the game. In this section, we're going to get all the money we need for the rest of the run, plus the book, which normally opens desert for us, but in this run, all we'll use it for is to get the Ether Medallion and beat Skull Woods. So that's kind of our main goals in this upcoming section.
Yeah, if we could get into Mire without Ether, like that's one of the few like holy grail like kind of like glitches. It is possible now with Ace, but that's banned in pretty much everything. I think that's even banned in the major glitch categories. It's so abusively overpowered.
I think it's like EG only. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we could find some way of getting into Mire with the proper dungeon ID, so we could beat it, that would be huge. That would allow us to skip both the book and Ether. Because the only reason we get book is to get Ether. The only reason we get Ether is to open Mire. So it's this kind of like chain of 2 items that we get. And so it'd save a lot of time if we could do that. But obviously, depending on how long that whatever weird glitch would let us in there would take. Like that's one of the holy grails that are left. Doing Flipperless Swamp is kind of a holy grail that's kind of sitting out there. And then the one that I really want to see is us finding a way to open up Helma's big key door. That way we can steal Pod Cave State Key, and that would allow us to skip a bunch of stuff, because it would also... Cave State Big Key gives you a Hera and Desert's Big Key for some reason. So we could skip pretty much all of Desert, we could skip Tile Room, and then we can also... There's a bunch of stuff we'll be doing later to get Hookshot. We could actually do that stuff in Hera, and it would save a lot of time.
Yeah, it'd be really nice. But question about Ether in Agate Tower. That requires Plaid World, to my knowledge, which is EG. So not allowed in this rule. I think the only time it's even picked up in Plaid World runs is either if it's like 100% run, or to just set the marker as the boss having been defeated. But they never actually use Ether in those runs.
ADU gets it because like you get into Mire through EG, but since you have to reset the dungeon ID, you leave, and then you need to open Mire to get in properly. That's the problem. The problem is it's not getting in. We can get into Mire anytime we want. It's getting into Mire with Mire's ID is the problem, which can only be done through entering the one door, which is blocked by Ether.
But yeah, actually, I forgot to mention, one of the things that's different about this split for a lot of runners is that you're actually going to be down a heart here compared to what most runners are used to running in any percent NMG. It's the same if you've skipped Sankart, but like I said, most runners don't. Probably less than 10 people in the world regularly skip that. It's pretty dangerous to do so. Yeah. So that extra heart actually makes a really big difference in Skullwoods, because here's where a lot of things start to hurt. Just in general, most of the things in this dungeon do 2 hearts of damage, and so the extra heart here lets you take another hit, particularly from the boss, which is where the real issue arises.
Yeah, a lot of dungeons have this even odd problem where just being on 1 extra heart is not actually going to help you all the time. So like a lot of it's something like a lot of top players can see. Like you'll see them like. You'll be like, oh, they skipped a heart. Like that's really risky. It's not really risky. It's just it didn't put them at a higher multiple, so that it was pointless. And just keeping track of all that is something like you see like top players do. Even when they're playing safe, they just know a heart's not going to help them. They just don't even bother.
Cool. See both of the mini Moldorms in this room right when Moogle bomb jumps across. Just came right at him. Always got to be prepared for that. It's just like. This whole dungeon, just small things. If you don't notice them, you're going to take a bunch of extra damage. So good job for Moogle recognizing that.
Yeah, this is a dungeon that really just is resistant to pretty much any glitches. There was a way of getting here from the Turtle Rock area that was done by a player named Super Scudge. Unfortunately, it's slower than pretty much because you still have to come here and get the fire rod, so you end up like splitting up Skullwoods in half. It would be a really cool route, but we just can't figure out a way of making it faster.
And yeah, Skullwoods is a bit of a maze, so if you're not familiar with it, it looks like it's a really easy dungeon. Or if you are familiar with it, it's pretty easy. And if you're not familiar with it, it's just kind of one of the most annoying dungeons in the game, in my opinion. But Moogle's entering the back half here, or the back section, about ready to fight the boss. So 3 hearts to 4. Okay, that was smart to kill the mini Helma to get the heart drop there, or the chance at the heart drop rather.
Yeah. Normally, like in NMG, you'll see like prize pack manipulation to keep the fairy drop for Turtle Rock. 2 things with that: the prize packs reset. That was a really nice. That was a really nice moth fight. Only getting 1 spike out from Moogle. So he had a pretty good Skullwoods. Nothing really went poorly for him. But yeah, we don't have to worry about the prize pack manipulations because we don't like Turtle Rock is actually pretty safe in this category the way we do it. B, prize packs reset when you do a save and quit, and like we'll be doing a save and quit right here after the segment. So if you need hearts, farming that Helma can actually be a pretty smart idea and try to get a heart drop from off of it.
Mm-hmm.
The only downside is it's pretty much never going to be a fairy because there's not really anything else in that prize pack you can kill before getting to this.
I think that's correct. I think that's the only reasonable enemy to kill. But drops in this game are 50-50, aside from a select few, which are 100%. But so whenever we talk about drops, it's always just a chance at a drop. And as Moogle goes into this next segment, this is actually the desert segment. We're actually going to start it on top of Death Mountain because, as we all know, desert lies at the top of Death Mountain. But really what we're going to do in this section is just collect the last remaining kind of, well, aside from Ice Rod, all the non-dungeon items still, basically. And the first of those is Ether Medallion, as mentioned earlier, which is at the top of Death Mountain. And you do need at least the Master Sword to get this, so we couldn't have gotten it earlier even if we wanted to without really going out our way. And then immediately after this, we're going to head on over to Zora's Domain to pick up the flippers, which are required just to beat Swamp.
Yeah, I was saying that's one of the holy grail. If we can skip those, if we could skip theoretically, if you skip, we find the ether skip and the flipper skip, this whole section goes away, which would be great because this section sucks.
Agreed. Also, we would not have to get any money at all in the run. We would need 10 rupees, I guess, to upgrade the sword, and that would be it.
Yeah, we'd probably go to farming strats in Eastern for that.
Mm-hmm. But Zora's Domain does look a little different, since what happens is, since we clip down from Death Mountain into Zora's Domain, it actually loads the Death Mountain tile set here, so it doesn't look right. But you can see all the actual ground pieces. It's a little bit easier to notice whether your dash is not going to work or not on this compared to the regular tile set.
Yeah, I think if you're just trying to learn the screen, it's actually easier to learn on this because you can see the boundaries a little bit easier. But if you played a bunch of NMG and are just so used to the other way, you still have to kind of relearn them. So it's just different. Your cues change and everything.
But yeah, now that we've collected all the stuff we need to collect, we actually are going to head to Desert. We're going to make a quick stop into the Dark World first because we also want to do Mire at some point, and Desert and Mire are right on top of each other. And since the mirror lets us travel between worlds, it's nice to do both of them back to back like this. This is definitely the worst screen in this game, or this category. Moogle just opting to walk, which is totally reasonable.
We're affectionately calling that the plain ham sandwich strat now. Or at least I'm trying to make it happen. Is what's happening. I will mention that every single time. Ham showing off the sandwich in chat.
But yeah, he's gonna make a quick. He's gonna do another clip into the wall, do a teleport, and that gets him up onto the raised platform there, which also says get into the Mire area. Take a quick mirror, and now we're in the desert area, which is fantastic.
Yeah, again, I don't know if Moogle is watching this or changing his strat, but if in his shoes, if he sees he's ahead and he just wants to win this match to guarantee advancement, not even if he does do something there normally, just walking around makes a lot of sense. That screen can kill you. That's one of the places that he can potentially lose a bunch of time and put this race back into contention. So if that was a strategic decision, I think it's definitely smart.
Or if it's just his regular strat. Also kind of smart.
also kind of smart.
That screen you can just die on no matter what your strat is, and that's probably the most reliable way to not die.
Yeah,
is just by walking around like that.
Honestly, with speedrunning, the fast strat and the smart strat are very rarely the same thing. The only reason the fast strats are smart is because they are actually fast, but they tend to be terrible.
But yeah, so all we need to do in Desert actually is grab the big key. Normally you would get the gloves here. We do not want the gloves at all. That would actually downgrade us from the mid. Actually, I think we only pick up the one other block, right?
Yeah,
in
the
Cold
only
Stay.
other block we do need gloves at this point. But it doesn't matter which. It wouldn't be a run over because there is a way into Ice Palace without picking up the.
It would just be a less safe way in Ice Palace. If he is going to opt for safer strats for the rest of the run, then he will want to hold on to those mitts. But also, it's just slower and out of our way to pick up the gloves, so there's no reason.
Yeah, they're so far away. I mean, in fact, if you pick up those gloves, it's effectively a dead run just because it takes so damn long to get them.
But yeah, in this category, well, down a fire rod shot is going to make it. Maybe he can get a double hit. It's possible on some of the Landmos. But in this category, Landmo, even though we can one cycle them, they're still an RNG fest, and you still kind of pray that they jump in good patterns, which, okay, pretty good. Oh, he tried to charge a spin there, which is just, I don't think he had enough time, but cleaned it up nicely. So good job there.
Yeah, it's funny that this fight's so much easier than in NMG, but like just getting a 2 cycle just feels terrible. The RNG can just take it away from you sometimes, but it just feels like it feels so bad because the 1 cycle strat it's not hard to do. It's just it's a little bit of RNG reading, and sometimes they're just.
Yep. And so since we have since we've already been in the Mire area, heading right back to the Mire area, going to use the Ether Medallion exactly 1 time in this run, right here to open Mire, and hopefully not bombs, but Ether, yeah, okay, good recognition. But in my opinion, Mire is one of the hardest splits in this run, just because of like how much stuff can go wrong.
Yeah, it depends, and especially if you decide to throw in that bomb jump that is kind of becoming in vogue finally. But yeah, Mire is. Oh, that's so. I was gonna say one of the reasons we do the desert first before Mire is you want full hearts here for beams for Mire too. Oh, is he gonna? Yes, he's gonna boom that heart. Yeah. This room is really bad without beams, so I can't really fault him for that. So that's one of the reasons. The main reason we do desert first is to abuse that free refill from finishing a dungeon. Oh no, you did get it. Okay, I thought that Popo was off screen.
I don't know. Beams seem to travel in a strange way off screen sometimes. So
yeah, the way things are handled off screen is kind of it feels random sometimes.
Wow, that is terrible RNG on Yoho's side for Landmo, which is just like the kind of stuff you deal with Landmo. And yeah, I actually fired the Fire Rod a little bit too quickly there. Didn't end the iframes for Landmo, so it just went straight through, which is really obnoxious. But
yeah, but again, this race definitely can still tighten up. But this whole segment
is down a key. So this could be not good.
All right, someone tell him this. We are allowed to backseat. If someone wants to go pop into stream and yell at him, that's perfectly.
Yeah, normally we actually want an extra key here, so that we can get the hook shot in this segment. I think that only saves 20 seconds. Maybe he's like, I'm so far ahead, I'm just not gonna do it. Just gonna do Mire normally.
He's about to, yeah. Well, I mean, he could. It's. I think it's closer to 40 seconds that it.
Is it 40?
But it's. I think so. Yeah, it's a good chunk of time.
It is not easy. We'll see what he does, but the pegs are down, so he might try. Hopefully, he recognizes. Don't go down. Okay.
Oh no.
Okay, this is not good. Oh, he recognized. Okay. He's getting a backup key.
Yeah, hopefully he's smart enough to get this right. Okay, he's going to get this great key here. Normally this key's never gotten. This is the oh shit key. The oh shit, I don't have a key.
Yeah. We need this to open up a room in Swamp, which is not the dungeon we're currently in. But the way keys are tracked is that they're just tied to whatever dungeon you're currently in. So it'll take this Mire key and use it in Swamp.
Yes, exactly what we were talking about before with the cave state. It's the keys that the game loads based on what dungeon you entered. So we're still going to use all of Mire's items. Mire's just kind of like a big old puzzle dungeon. There's a bunch of extra rooms that you don't have to go into that are locked by keys. So we abuse that fact. We steal one of the keys we're never going to use here anyways, and we are going to take it into Swamp. To get to Swamp, we actually have to go to Hera. So you may be asking yourself, well, why the hell didn't you just do this during Hera? It's because Hera does not have any extra keys. We need the one small key to get the big key. That's what I was saying before. If we could actually get the cave state key, we would effectively have Hera's big key, and then we could steal the small key. So it'd be a really major route change. But this is the hardest bomb clip in this route. Left bomb clips, it takes 2 buffers to put you on the correct pixel. There's also some sub-pixel bullshit that happens that you can end up in the wrong spot. So it's pretty difficult. It was really just 2 1-frame buffers in a row. Doing 1-frame buffers isn't that difficult. It's just when you have to do 2 in a row and you do make any mistakes, you have to start over. You can just lose a bunch of time.
It's not hard until it's impossible, and then you can't do it at all. So glad he got out of there. Did take a little bit of extra damage and used a few extra bombs, which is going to mess up the bomb route a little bit, but he should be able to get some extras in Swamp. The health situation is a little bit more dangerous to the rest of his dungeon, though. We do want to take damage boost for the boss, which is going to cost 5 hearts. So if you're not on at least 6, it gets very scary very fast.
No, you can 4 hearts. So if you have 5
Wow.
hearts, you're fine.
You can do it in 4. It's just kind of got to be really
doing it
to get it.
Doing it in 4 is possible, and you can make it consistent. Like I pretty much always have 4 heart fights, but it takes a lot of work to make it a consistent 4. So like 5 is definitely, or having 6 so you can take 5 hearts damage is definitely safe.
Yo had a really great clip. Just first try, no issues there. Charging up a hammer dash, which I actually don't know if that's faster or not.
Yeah, I haven't. There's a lot of so we have a practice hack that tells us like things about like lag and stuff. There's a lot of like, I guess I don't even know if it's misinformation, but there's a lot of confusion about that room, about what's actually causing lag, and if some of the stuff we're seeing is practice hacks specific or not. I know like Glenn has mentioned some stuff to me, and I've never really hunted it down.
But yeah, so getting through, only missing 1 health there is pretty good. Moogle here is going to be setting up for Spooky, which is a little bit different in this category. Normally we would use the flute to set the altitude variable for us. In this category, we don't have the flute, so instead we have to use something else that makes use of the altitude variable. In this case, it's the blocks placed by Samaria. We throw it away. It sets the altitude variable to the maximum allowable height by the game, which is going to displace this fire rod shot almost an entire screen away. But there's going to be a timing mechanism we have to use in this room to try to get it that Moogle's currently in. And got it first try. Great. It's actually pretty tough.
Yeah, it's also kind of frame rolly too. There's sometimes you do all the movement correctly, and it still just says no to you. So, but like the routing to that back half of the dungeon was a little different because we never got an opportunity to flip the pegs in this dungeon, so we had to take like kind of that weird route around.
Yeah, so we are seeing 6 hearts from Moogle, so hopefully this fight goes well.
Yeah, this dungeon is interesting from a health standpoint. We come in here with less hearts than we would in NMG, but the boss is effectively safer. Oh no, Yoho put his block on the stairs and couldn't get to it. But like yeah, in NMG we would come into more hearts and then we take the damage from that spike rating and then go straight to the boss. Because we have those fairy refills halfway through, it's as long as you kind of know your way around Mire, and once you get pretty good at the game, you're not really going to take too much extra damage in Mire. It's actually, Vidi is a safer boss in here. Like a lot of times you'll be coming in to the boss with like 8-9 hearts. So it's once you get pretty comfortable with the game, the Vidi in this category is actually safer. Yoho going for a setupless footless spooky and unfortunately missed.
Also not playing around with it, not trying to figure out, hey, did I mess it up? Because it's still going to work. It just says, I'm going to bomb this wall and be done.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of extra bombs too, so he should be fine there.
So Spooky just allows us to skip that room that Yoho went into. In this category, it's a little bit less of a time save. but it is nice to have that time save, and also not nice to not use the bomb as well.
Yeah, Moogle also.
Oh,
Oh, did Yoho take a hit?
he did. Yeah, so we mentioned that some things in this game do 4 hearts of damage. The eyeballs in this fight are one of those
Oh
things.
no, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, and then once the fight kind of goes a little bit haywire, it's likely that it goes a lot of bit haywire.
Yeah, so he's coming out and mirroring here. Since we never beat Aga in this category to the very end, the game checks to see where it should put you based on the Aga flag. Since it's not set, it actually puts us in Light World, even though we're in the Dark World. It's a state called Fake Dark World. It has a bunch of pretty much all the Fake Dark World's effects are negative. It's nothing we ever actually want. So we fix it by going outside and mirroring. If Yoho didn't do that and killed Vidi, the prize wouldn't drop. And you don't have access to your mirror until you pick up that, or to your menu until you pick up that prize.
You also
so
can't save and quit.
yeah, and you
So
can't save and quit.
The only
Can
option
you,
is just turn it off.
if you pre-menu to mirror, can you even use the mirror?
No, you cannot.
Yeah, so you're hard locked if you don't do it. So you would end up going back a couple dungeons, be a huge, even bigger time loss than it already is. Unfortunately, with the helmet death and the Vidi death, Moogle has a pretty comfortable lead at this point. But you know, I've seen people have 11-minute ice palaces before, so you know, some people who some people would say are okay. So it's stuff can still happen.
Yep.
Moogle also has a hard lock chance coming up here too. Although again, if he is watching the race at this point, I would not be surprised if he just bails.
Yep. And there we see him actually do one of the newest tricks. You can use the Samaria lock to kind of clip into the rail there and jump straight down. Skips a lever animation, skips a couple other rooms. It saves, what, 8 seconds or something? 7 seconds? I forget exactly how much, but a significant amount.
Yeah, it's like 6-ish, something like that. Just skipping cutscenes, skipping pulling this slow-ass statue. So.
And Moogle did take this opportunity in Swamp here to get 2 bombs, so now his bomb count is comfortable for the rest of the run. Also, his arrow count looks good as well. Swamp's kind of our last chance to stock back up on these essentials, so good recognition from Moogle.
The oldie Samaria block on Argus. What? Didn't I think were you the one who did that in a race? You put the Samaria block down?
That.
Oh, okay.
No. I commentated a match where that happened.
Oh, that's okay. That's why I had to associate it with you. That's right.
Unfortunately, no, Samario does not work, does not help us defeat Argus at all.
It does despawn your shield, though, so you can save some frames by pushing it around at the boss. Oh, yeah. That's right. It was Emo who did that.
Yeah, it's just most people are used to being on hookshot at that point in time because you hookshot across the little gap in the dungeon and then you never menu again. So given how new the tech is, a lot of people are used to not menuing again, and then you just kind of forget when you get into the fight. Yeah, at this point it will be interesting to see if Moogle opts for the mirror wrap or if he just swims his way over to Ice Palace.
Yeah, if he's just playing for the, I mean, he's looking at splits right now. He's plus a minute 15, so it's not even like he's got the allure of saving a PB really available for him. And it looks like he is going to be going for it. So it's a little interesting here. This is only it's only like 6-8 seconds. We do have had one hard lock in this tournament so far from this, so it does happen. Wow, he got really close. Holy shit.
It was almost too high. Yeah.
That might have been the last damn pixel.
But yeah, so a lot of times in this game, if you press 2 buttons on the same frame, weird things happen. In this case, if you move into a transition on the same frame that you mirror, the game handles it in a way that I don't quite understand, but it allows you to kind of manipulate the camera and where Link is, and lets us get into Ice Palace without needing to like go back to Light World, pick up the block, take the ice entrance.
Yeah, this one is only 3 minutes long, but it is, and it goes by incredibly fast, and it's just like one. They're not even necessarily. Nothing's really hard. Our icebreaker is probably now the hardest thing in here that we see Moogle trying to do. But it's just it's that that clip up to the top, into the mirror wrap, into the bomb clip, into icebreaker. It's into a couple hard rooms at the end of Ice Palace. It just goes by so fast, and it's really easy to mess something up.
I don't
The
think
other
we have
thing,
or state here.
yeah, he might not. The other problem, we do need full magic for, excuse me, what's it called?
Cold Sear.
Okay, a cold stare. It looks like, yeah, he might be pulling off the blue mail tech.
I wasn't counting some Mario uses, but he needs either 3 or 4 small magics, and there's only 2 in our path. So
Yeah, I'm hoping he can get a drop off of these berries. Yeah, you can even try to get a drop off of these berries. If you don't, all right, let's see this magic. No, that's still not enough. Hopefully he recognizes.
Gonna kill the Pangators. Okay, yeah.
So generally these Pangators will drop you something. At least one of them. There, that's
cool.
plenty. He was fine anyway. He just picked up 2, and that was full. Unless he got a third one that I didn't notice, but he might have been okay to skip.
No, I think he only needed 2. Yeah, I think 5 was correct from Blaine.
Yeah. Moogle has lost a bunch of time in this, though. I mean, Yoho still is significantly behind at this point. Yoho's kind of put about 5 minutes from just the two deaths. Helma's about 2 minutes. Vidi's about 3. But Moogle still has got some tricky stuff. The TR climb is kind of notorious for soft locking you. There's a couple soft locks still coming up that could bring this match back together a little bit.
Plus, GT's just hard in this category.
Plus GT, and there's always the despawn. Like if you just
yeah. But with Blue Mail and with the experience that Moogle has fighting Cold Stare, not expecting any issues here.
Yeah, who would have issues with Cold Stare?
Who would have issues with Cold Stare? Never happened to anybody.
Jeez. Yeah, if he does die here, in fact, if he does die here, Yoho has the lead because dying to Cold Stare is so incredibly terrible. But he got through it. It's good. But it's really terrible in this category because you blew all of your resources in this dungeon. You blew most of your bombs. Moogle's at least in a situation where he has a decent amount of bombs. But if you're really playing it close to the metal, you wouldn't have really enough bombs to come back through this dungeon. And you use all your magic. Moogle had to do some extra things just to get magic just from using 2 Mesa Mario blocks. If you're in the situation where you have no magic, it becomes complete hell. So Cold Stare is probably the worst death you can take. In fact, like if you look at the tutorial, it actually says if you're not doing like a race or something where you need your run to be valid, just if you die to Cold Stare, just finish the game. Like if you're just trying to practice, because it's so hell.
Yeah, and we see on Yoho's screen that pressing 2 buttons at the same time is literally impossible.
Yeah, Yoho came real close. I'm sorry.
Second try mirror rep's still pretty okay, especially since he didn't get the mirror into dark world or mirror to light world. Have to wait for it to come back first, so it's not that bad.
Yeah. But Yoho came real close to hard locking. Not only can you hard lock by walking too high on the mirror wrap, if you that hop that you do up there, if you hop too high, you can transition the screen up, and that's also an infinite scroll. That would be a 15-minute time.
Yeah, so we do have one last item to get in this run, and that's going to be the Ice Rod. After beating Ice Palace, this is as close as we're ever going to get. So we're going to come up here and grab Ice Rod. A couple of different ways to get it. Some of them involve a bomb, some of them don't. But Moogle has enough bombs that he can afford to bomb it, and he will. So that's definitely the easiest way to approach that screen.
Yeah, bomb management here is very important. We need another bomb to get. We're gonna go to the back of Laser Bridge, and we're gonna be stuck in a bomb wall. So there's not another real bomb that you can get between here and there. So you need to have at least 2 bombs here to bomb open Ice Rod Cave. One of the backup strats is you can just teleport in there if you're trying to manage your bombs. But it's really important. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go like into Hera and like go up to the Beetle Room to get to get a bomb. It's actually not too bad because we come to Hera anyways. It's only up 1 floor, and then we need to go to Mirror next anyways. But it's pretty bad. It's like a 15-second time loss. It's definitely something you don't want to do just because you mismanaged your bombs.
Yeah. So we teleport into Hera again for the 3rd time this run. Farming the bushes for a fairy. I think he's just playing it super safe at this point. Not necessary. Gonna do 1 more teleport to get into the wall here. And then a few precise inputs here, end up on a specific pixel, hop the ledge, and then we're going to do another mirror wrap, which was well done by Moogle. And I think that one was actually found by Duck on accident.
Yeah, well, the hop down was found by me. Chex pointed out the higher wrap to me. I was actually doing the higher wrap for a bit before I discovered the hop down. All the hop down did was actually make that method optimal, so now everyone does it. Before it was just safer.
But yeah, so we're coming in Turtle Rock through the back here. Moogle with the extra fairy there and Blue Mail should be pretty safe. Only real danger is accidentally spending a key that we don't want to do, since we're going to enter, I think, 2 key doors from the back entrance. So the way keys get used is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's that we're entering them through. As long as you're entering through the stairs, you'll go right through them. If otherwise, it'll just be like in Swamp. We kind of entered one backwards, so we still had to use the key. But since the game just kind of puts it on those stairs, it kind of automatically puts us past the door, and we don't have to worry about it.
And if anybody can figure out how bonking that wall works, please let me know.
I was playing with it. I think as long as you want to be kind of like off to the right a little bit, and then as long as you're flush with the top blocks, you'll be fine. Because that's kind of what I do, and I never fail it anymore.
Okay. Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with that bonkable wall, and just bonkable walls in general.
Yeah, it's like if you're pressed up against it, if you're pressed up against the bottom wall, it won't work. And I think there might be a couple pixels like in between those 2 points that don't work. So just stay flush with the pegs, and you should be fine.
Yeah, we actually are doing all of this in Turtle Rock to get the big key, which is required to be Trinex. And we actually see Yoho doing a clip, actually, to get to Ice Rock Cave. That one saves, what, a couple of seconds?
The clip, it's like 2-ish seconds, something around
there. It's pretty nice. The only thing about it is you need to be aware that if you mess up, you got to learn how to teleport, because the game doesn't like bombs sometimes in that scenario, so just kind of deal with it.
Yeah, it's really weird. It depends on how you hop down and everything, and sometimes you have like bombs just plop into the water. So yeah, I always recommend that if you are going to learn it, make sure you know the teleport. It's not any harder than a normal. It's just that the camera's broken, so all your cues are screwed up, and you have to learn a new set of cues. Anyways, Moogle going into the Trinex fight with Blue Mail and a billion hearts. This should be a pretty safe fight. Ideally, you don't get hit anyways. Just getting hit would be a little slow at this point. Yeah, if he gets the one side, ideally you can get that cycle completed before the main head retracts. So Moogle lost a little bit of time there, but he perfect.
And I will say, aside from the 2 deaths, Yoho has been crushing this run, actually.
Yeah, the fact that he's lost 5 minutes in this run from those 2 deaths, and he is only like he's about a 5-minute dungeon behind. Not even. He's halfway through this. He's really only like 2-ish minutes behind at this point.
3 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, like 2.5, which isn't a lot. The Moogle is running out of things left that could happen in this run that are really going to make up that difference, though. And Yoho going the wrong way in the maze room certainly won't help.
He did charge a spin there, which stops this platform from moving. I think with 2 hearts there, he didn't want to take the damage. If you do 1 spin, you will avoid the 1 damage that you would normally take in that room. But you do have to go the right direction.
Yeah, it's a very complicated room. You have to hold up, and that's it.
It is easy to
not
think about things like that.
If you spin in the wrong, spin at the wrong time, yeah, I'm sure he just dropped the input. I kid.
But hopefully we will see Pokies in this dungeon drop. The second drop in the prize pack is going to be a fairy, so hopefully we get the heart and the fairy from this key Pokey coming up. It's like a 1 in 4 chance, I believe, for that to happen.
Yeah, because well, it depends if the helmet dropped the heart yet. I didn't see if it did or not.
So he
I
pushed
think
the helmet off the bridge. So
okay, yeah. So it's gonna be 25% chance because he needs two 50% drops here. Yeah, he does get the heart. That will help a little bit. Trinex does 4 hearts of damage. He does have the option of picking up that 1 heart before Trinex. But if he gets hit by Trinex, it's not going to help. And then, I don't think anything on Trinex does 2 hearts. Maybe.
I think walking into Trinex does 2 hearts.
Maybe.
But yeah, Moogle actually just clipped into GT. It's nice fairy from the mini helmet right there. So that's pretty nice for him.
Yeah.
But Moogle clipped into GT. If you're fast at it, it's actually faster than watching a cutscene and all that jazz anyway. But if you notice, Moogle, after beating the dungeon, also was put on Turtle Rock's mouth, which is one of those other situations where you're stuck in place, you can't do anything. So save and quit there is really nice.
Yeah. I mean, we can go back into Turtle Rock if we wanted
to. Doesn't seem very helpful.
Yeah. If we allowed other glitches, it would be very helpful.
But now Moogle's in GT, which is still the hardest still the actual hardest dungeon in the run. Like, it's just going to be room after room of either high execution or reacting to RNG, or both sometimes.
Yeah. Again, the only reason we're doing this dungeon is because it's all dungeons. Although I think the Ganon pot would be a wrong warp, which would actually be banned, so we might have to do this no matter what. Excuse me, but like since we just clipped it, even we have all the crystals and we just clipped in here, we could have done this at any point. It just turns out that it turns out to be conveniently routed at the end, which is definitely nice just from a the way the category kind of plays and feels type of thing, because this is a really nice kind of end cap to the run. We do have Aga Tower after this, kind of unfortunately, which is always kind of a weird, you kind of did Turtle Rock, you did all this hard stuff. You're thinking okay, I just need to have a good GT and I have a good chance of PBing, and they're oh right, Aga Tower, I forgot I have to do that. And Aga Tower has 3-4 seconds of variance in it, kind of it's generally not going to kill your run. And in fact, I barely, even when people are learning this, I tell them just do whatever in Aga Tower, it doesn't matter. You can come back and learn the strats. In fact, we definitely had there was a world record at one point with some guy who had no idea what they were doing in there. So it seemed to be okay.
But yeah, Moogle with full health, blue mail. Mail upgrades in GT are actually kind of interesting, because most of the damage we take in GT is from traps such as the Spike Room, which Moogle's probably going to walk on twice now since he accidentally mirrored there. That's one of the dangerous things that can happen, especially because normally you don't have full health for this segment, so you would bow that, and it's easy to just kind of have it escape your mind that you're not on bow there. But most of the damage in this dungeon is actually spikes or other types of traps, which do fixed damage, no matter your mail. If you do take a hit from an enemy like you did there, it will do less damage, but in general, most of the damage here is fixed.
Yeah, that's the thing with blue mail. It feels like a nice upgrade, but again, the most dangerous, Turtle Rock is pretty straightforward after Ice Palace. There's not really a lot of RNG or anything in there. If you're really scared of it, you might as well just get the refill. It's probably about the same amount of time as picking up the hearts. And then again, Ganon's Tower does a lot of flat damage, so it doesn't help you too terribly much in this. And then Ganon, you get a free refill before, so you'd have to take a lot of damage to make it blue mail actually save your life. Although the Saban, the other guy who picked it up, definitely actually needed the blue mail in his Ganon, so but it feels like a nice safety, but it's kind of a little awkward.
Again, and even though we are kind of downplaying it a little bit, it is easy to have one thing go wrong in that fight, and then all of a sudden you panic.
That is true. That is true.
And Ganon hurts.
Saban needed the blue mail, and Saban's a good player, so I guess especially for a Ganon death is something that could definitely swing something. So, it's certainly it's a sensible upgrade. It's just kind of a feels bad that comes so late in the run.
Yeah, not quite as bad as red mail, but oh well. pretty nice Armos fight from Yoho there.
Moogle missing the wizard room. Yeah, I mean Moogle is not far behind at this. Not Moogle, excuse me. Yoho is not far behind. Yoho's definitely had the better run, except for the two horrible things that happened to him. Everything that's not a horrible time wasting death has been done better by Yoho in this run, I'd have to say. So, it's a little bit feels bad that that's going to be what swings this, but it's definitely something to consider in the tournament. And I hate to say it, but the two bosses that he died on are the two bosses that are the big advertisement for getting silvers in this category. So I've been beating the silvers drum for quite some time, despite me not actually getting them. I will say the two horrible things that I had happen to me in this tournament, silvers would not have helped with. So I still feel justified.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two bosses that silvers are going to help against, but there's so many things that can go wrong in this run that both of the runners have actually handled pretty well. That silvers, to a lot of people, especially if they're comfortable with the bosses, just feel like they don't help me with the mirror wraps, which is what I'm really worried about. Or they don't help me with the bomb clips or something like that. So a lot of times it might have just been something extra that they didn't want to learn.
Yeah.
And it is actually slower. So especially in a race between two runners like this that are relatively close together, you don't want to take that time loss if you don't have to.
Yeah, I think silver's become really attractive for I think most newer runners are going to end up again because it's really scary. So the newer runners will tend to pick them up no matter what. And the other time it becomes attractive is if you're kind of around that 2 minutes ahead of someone PB wise. That you should have a pretty easy chance to win as long as you don't die to Helma, and then they become a lot more attractive because you can afford the 20 seconds, but you can't afford the 2 minutes. But if it's a close race like this race easily could have been swung by 20 seconds. So if it was a thing where it was both players had a good run and one got silvers and they lost by those 20 seconds, you may be kicking yourself for it. So I mean it's from a race perspective, it does offer a bunch of interesting strategic decisions.
Yep. And so now we're done with GT. Normally that signifies the end of the game. No, we do have to do Agate Tower, as Duck mentioned, which is definitely the worst part of the whole run. I know I mentioned in Escaping Eastern that it's pretty boring, but here you kind of do this dungeon and you're really overpowered relative to what you would normally be coming into here. So none of the rooms are particularly difficult, and the variance is pretty low until you get to the boss of this dungeon, and then there's nothing you can do. You just pray you don't get RNG to death.
This dungeon becomes scary again when you start really pushing your GT and you start taking a lot more intended damage boosts. Start picking up the Helma key, you're going for the floor 2 strat and no old man heal. Because then you might be coming in here with only 1 heart or even a heart and a half. And there's a couple things that will just hit you and kill you. So it becomes scary for high level players again because they took so much damage on purpose in GT.
Yeah, I think if you have a damageless GT but you do all the damage boost strats, you're gonna lose something like 5 hearts intentionally in GT.
It's 3 hearts in the damage floor, another heart in Helma key.
So 4 hearts intentionally, I think. And you start with 8. So if the rest of GT is damageless, the best case scenario you're looking at is you got a heart drop and you're at 5 hearts. That's best case scenario.
Start with 8? I thought you started with 7.
I thought you started with 8 if you take Zank. Do you? Is it 7?
Yeah, I forget.
I don't remember. Either way,
it's not a lot.
It's 4 or 5 hearts, which means if you have a perfect GT, you're at 4 or 5 hearts.
Which I don't care how good you are. Having a perfect GT
doesn't happen. So realistically, you're looking at 2.
Zero saying it's 8, and not to listen to me, which is good advice. This is why I wrote the tutorial and asked 20 people to look at it because it was basically not in English the first time it was done.
So yeah, now Moogle just has to put his hands into Or just has to pray to RNG and hope he doesn't get too many blue balls here.
Yeah, a really massive discrepancy in RNG could potentially swing this race. But that'd be a hell of a way for this thing to end. You really wouldn't want to see that, to be honest.
Yeah, so aside from the first energy ball in each cycle, each of these next three are going to be 50-50, whether they're blue balls or energy balls. You can see that when there was a blue ball, every time you get one, it's just that time loss. Nothing you can do about it. There's no way to manipulate the RNG. So we just kind of put up with it. And then you are guaranteed those lightning cycles after every fourth attack. So if you get enough blue balls, you actually get extra lightning cycles, which is just extra time loss on top of it being uncontrollable, which is really not fun. So yeah, going from 2 blue balls to 3 blue balls there, it's going to take Moogle from about 12 seconds time loss to about 24 seconds time loss, just because he has to deal with an extra cycle now.
Yeah, that third one is always, it feels bad to get.
And now, one of the worst parts about the Aghanim fight is that you still have also 25 seconds of text to mash before you can fight Ganon.
Yeah.
So not only are you waiting for the RNG, now you're just mashing text. So you have like something like 2 minutes where you're not really playing the game between finishing the Daga Tower and starting the Ganon fight.
Yeah.
Typically.
And even with Ganon, like Ganon is a difficult fight, but once you kind of figure out the Ganon fight, it becomes pretty straightforward. I mean, it is possible to mess up. Everyone's messed it up. But like it's just like you play this game for, you know, an hour and 10 minutes or whatever to get here, and it's like it just feels like all you've really done is bought a lottery ticket to see if you actually PB at the end. So it's a little bit of a feel. Some players prefer it, like having the RNG at the end, where it's just like with NMG, if in the middle, it always feels like stressful to have 0 blue balls, and you feel like you can't throw the run now, and it'll feel even worse. But like the flip side of this, it just feels like PBing is just kind of out of your hands in this category a lot, and like all you're doing is just playing for a chance.
Yeah, the 2 like big sources of RNG time loss are going to be blue balls from Aghanim and then warps from Ganon. Warps are also 50-50, but there's no upper limit on them. Ganon is never forced to land, which is kind of annoying actually. But yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have one last glitch we want to get here, which is torch glitch. If you light the left torch before the right one goes out, then the right one never actually goes out, which is really nice. Makes landing 3 hits per cycle here, I think, possible. Or maybe it is possible if you just if you can light both of them, but
yeah, I don't.
It's super tight if it is.
Yeah, if it is, I haven't really seen a good setup to get triples without it. It might only even be possible with the fire rod, in which case you just won't have enough magic for the fight.
Mm-hmm. But 12 spins to finish this run out. Hoping to get triples every phase, but it's not always that easy, especially depending on where Ganon warps. This is not Moogle's best fight that he's had before. But he is getting along, and he should be fine on magic.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, this was fairly close considering the things that happened to Yoho. Honestly, it was just, he doesn't take either one of those deaths, Yoho would definitely be pulling this one out. The helmet, if he didn't take the helmet, they would have been like right on top of each other. This is about a 2-minute fight. But he's already a little bit into it by the time Moogle crosses the bridge there. But Moogle does officially win. He has a time of 1:17.42. So GG's to him. I think that, well, it doesn't 100% guarantee him advancement. It is possible if Yoho manages to upset Josh, it'll be a 3-way tie with 2-1s. Moogle will finish with 2-1 in this tournament. So he's got a very good chance of moving on. And we are now joined by Moogle. GG.
Thank you.
So.
Oh
your
man,
run-
it was a shit
Yeah.
show, dude.
Yeah, it was. It was a bit of a shit show. Yeah. Yoho obviously having the. Were you watching the replay at all, or like did you know where Yoho was at during this?
I had my brother in voice chat, so he was keeping me up to date on things.
Okay, so yeah, we were kind of wondering if you were going to like maybe perhaps like skip the IP mirror wrap based on your lead at that point or something. There was one thing you did that was right, the swamp warp. Do you normally just walk around in the swamp, or was that because you were ahead and you were trying to play it safe instead of doing like the bomb clip or the spin speed clip?
Swamp Orb, I'm sorry, which one?
Right after Link's house when you go to swamp, there's like the bomb clip and then or there's the
Oh,
spin
yeah.
speed clip. Do you just normally walk
Normally-
around there, or?
Normally I don't bother with anything that's less than like 5 seconds or so.
Yeah, okay. That makes because you see that you skip that, you skip citrus, you skip the minor bomb jump, all the really silly stuff. We're also now joined by Yoho. Yoho finishing with a 1906. GG to you, Yoho.
Thank you.
Sorry about the deaths.
Sorry about the all dungeons happening to me.
Yeah, I mean like the besides the 2 deaths, you played the better game. Like this ended like the 2 deaths were like that's 5 minutes of deaths.
Yeah, that was rough, man.
Which you can see is like your PB is what 14:45 you said, so you're just under 5 minutes for where your PB is. So like the rest of that was a really good run. Moogle had no deaths and still ended up plus 3.324. So unfortunately, it was pretty much just the deaths that swung this match.
Yeah, my execution, you see things like Icebreaker, for example, Mire Escape, for example. I just had a really hard time doing the basic movements.
I mean,
Yeah,
I had a
I
couple
mean-
potato moments too. But
Yeah, I mean, there's always gonna be a couple of potato, but you're like getting a 1906 with a 14:45 PB and dying to both Helma and Vidi. Like that's a solid run. That's a really good run. Just unfortunately, we have to count the deaths.
yeah,
I'm right there with you that I wish we didn't have to count the deaths, but we do have to count the deaths. My score would be significantly lower if we didn't count the deaths.
But yeah, all disasters living up to its name.
I mean,
Yeah.
that Helma was really mean.
That
He
was
threw
a
everything
very-
out and then came to the bottom. It was just, oh man, that was just rude. It was just rude, Helma.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad. Like even if you just got stuck on the left side, you would have been able to like throw some hammers into him because it's a little bit easier doing it on the left side. But just where you ended up getting pinned, like there was nothing you could do. And like I forget. Oh, that's right. You took a heart of damage from trying to do a backup in the mimic room and took the damage
Yeah,
there.
Not getting the arrow drop was really the start of the chain of disaster.
Yeah, I mean, both of you were actually going into Helma on 4 hearts, so like Moogle had a hell of a Helma fight too. We were kind of wondering if we were going to have a double death in this race, but Moogle was able to pull it out with some arrow strats. But his fight got pretty uncomfortable towards the end as well.
I was actually planning on going for arrows if I dropped below 5 hearts, so and then that went out the window immediately in the mix.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with arrows is like it's like you have the range to hit him, but like with Helma dodging and everything, like it's still not that safe of a strat. Like I think the safe
It's
thing
really
to do
not.
is yeah, like you can you just have to play it by ear. Like try to hammer when you can get hammers in. Maybe do some spins. Maybe do some arrows if it comes down to that. But like just going for straight 8 arrows is not safe. So
If he drops a fireball at the bottom of the room and then moves backwards and swings the tail, that tail is in exactly the wrong spot.
yeah, that's. I mean, then Yoho just ended up getting pinned on the bottom, which was the main thing. And coming in there were 4 hearts. So,
It was unfortunate.
but
That's how it
yeah.
goes.
So it looks like there's only 1 match left in your bracket, and that's going to be Yoho versus Josh.
Yeah, me and Josh on Wednesday.
Yeah, so Josh has got like a 117 average so far this tournament. So, anything can happen. So if the way it looks like is if you managed to upset Josh, we're gonna have a 3-way tie for first with the 3, 2, and 1s. So it's gonna come down just to times at that point. So I don't know what the rest of your guys' times were. I assume Yoho, your other one was not a 119.
Oh, it
so
was
hope-
worse. It was worse, man.
Oh, that's right.
We,
You had a
we were all cursed.
yeah, that's right. You had a 121 too.
I had a 123. Moogle had a 123.10. Like, this guy destroyed us.
Yeah, so
CompuCab destroyed us.
yeah, CompuCab is
He
apparently the
great
devil.
destroyer.
Well, yeah. So in that case, you know, it's. I mean, with kind of situation with the times. I mean, you guys are in like Moogle. You're one of the higher 3 seeds. And so we do have 2 wild cards coming out, but based on what happened to your guys' group, you're probably not going to have a wild card spot available to you. So it's just going to come down to if Yoho can pull off the upset, and you know, then it's going to be what the times fall out to. So
I think he would need probably like a low 115, high 114.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely within his wheelhouse, though. So that's
it sure is. Going into this, I was fully expecting that either one of us could have dropped a 113 in this race, which we're both capable of.
Easily.
The nerves got to me really bad, and I didn't execute.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly more surprising seeing you pull a 117 without a death than it is to see Yoho pulling a 119 with deaths. Like, deaths happen, but like just like playing plus 3 minutes is if anything is rare for guys of your skill level. So it made it exciting from a viewer's perspective. I'll say that. So, but the Josh versus Yoho, if you know, some stuff happens to Josh that, you know, as we can see, can happen to anyone, including Josh. Yoho could pull off the upset, and then we'll be down to a 3-way tie. Moogle's about to become the biggest Josh RTA fan. Maybe become the only Josh RTA fan, honestly.
You make an interesting point.
But I think that's pretty much it for us. Dowf, unless you got anything else to say, or you guys have anything else you want to...
Oh no, thanks for calming our match and everything. That was cool.
Yeah, this was one I had kind of marked on pretty early on as being a potentially exciting match. So, and you guys made it exciting for reasons, there's different reasons than what I expected, but it's still go.
Well, reasons we expected, but not reasons we hoped for.
Yeah, that's fair. You always expect this stuff.
I'll add my GGs and congratulations, mooglemod and Yoho. Hoping to see more out of both of you as we move on in this tournament. Coming up later tonight on ZSR, we've got our excuse me, Ocarina of Time Rando weekly Freaky Friday match. We mess up the settings quite a bit, and then a couple more all dungeons matchups tonight. Ninnies versus Swerb at 9 p.m. Eastern, so about 3.5 hours. And then an hour after that, we'll also have Parisian player versus So. So it'd be a all dungeons kind of night here on ZSR tonight. Big thank you to Two Comms, Duck and Dow. And give our 2 runners a follow as well, Yoho and mooglemod. Any final thoughts from the 2 of you before we head on out of here?
No, I think that's it. But Dow, good luck on the commentating the later match as well. Dow doing the heavy lifting today.
Thanks for streaming it. It's always fun.
All right. With that, thank you very much, everybody. We will be out of here. We will see you back hopefully later tonight. And have a good night.